Hello, everyone out there in podcast land. Welcome to the Front Row Movie Reviews, the podcast for people who actually like movies. My name is Scott McFarlane, and we're here with our rapid reaction of what I cannot believe I'm saying is the Power Rangers. We just got back from the drive-in because when you have two twin babies, you don't get to go to the movie theater. You go to the drive-in instead. With me today is
Amber.
You have a glare. Okay, so we're doing this very much guerrilla style with a phone. So for those listening to the podcast, you don't care. For those watching on YouTube, I'm sorry. So we just, as I mentioned, got back from the Power Rangers. We're going to talk a little bit about it. We probably will do a full disclosure with the rest of the podcast crew after they finally go out and see it, but we wanted to get a rapid reaction out to you. So first off, we'll talk about our first impressions of the movie. First off, to kind of give you a little bit of background on where we come from, I came in a little bit late to the game. Well, I guess not late to the game. I was too old to really get into Power Rangers in the 90s. I probably watched the first 2 or 3 seasons basically until the White Ranger showed up. So I'm pretty up to speed on the history of it up until that point, and then I kind of did a quick refresher to kind of catch up a little bit more of what I missed after I left it. But I got a good idea of what's going on, mainly because this movie follows the first probably the first season pretty well in terms of just the makeup of the team and everything else. Amber, what's your history with the Power Rangers, if any?
History. I watched it pretty much from the beginning, but I think I dropped off probably not too long after, like you said, the White Power Ranger came on.
Let's be honest, you didn't even know what the White Ranger was when we were watching the movie.
Well, because I thought he was also the Black. I thought they intertwined with each other.
He's not Michael Jackson.
But no, I grew up loving the yellow and pink Power Ranger, so I guess I really didn't care about the guys.
So you're a sexist.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when we were watching the movie a couple of times, the nice thing about being a drive-in is you can kind of talk because you're in your car. A couple of times we pointed out some things that kind of related back to the original show. The big thing, and at first I guess I gotta say this because I haven't said it yet, there will be spoilers here. So if you do not want spoilers, go see the movie. I'll start out by saying you should go see it because it's a good movie, and we won't bury the lead. But for the spoilers to start going here, there's a couple references to the old show. For one, Rita does say, "Make my monster grow," and I did get a chuckle out of that when it happened. They say morphine time. The actors who played Tommy and Kimberly show up for a brief second because I guess they had nothing better to do. And I think the best callback to the original show is when the Zords start running, we get Go Go Power Rangers. It's a new version, but it is the song. So what we'll do now is we'll talk about what some of the things we liked about the movie and what worked. So we'll go to Amber first.
Why would you go to me first?
Because I wanted to pick on you.
The things I liked.
Can you turn this way so you're not in the glare?
There's no way. It's a light.
See? Better.
I would probably say I did like the characters. I think a lot of them related back to the old ones. And I did like, God, now I forgot her name, the person that does play Rita. I think
Banks.
she did a really
Elizabeth
good job
Banks.
at that character. I think there was times when it probably was a little over, but overall, I think she played that part to pretty much the original. So, but other than that, go ahead.
So yeah, I agree with that. Going off Rita first. Oh, my finger's in front of the camera. This is what happens when I use a phone. Going off Rita first, I think the whole movie was trying to be a little bit more realistic, and I don't want to say dark, because when I say dark, I think like DC can't make a DC superhero movie and everything's in the dark. There's a lot of stuff done in the light, and yes, the final battle scene is done during the daylight, so you can see what's going on. In terms of the characters, I agree that they were likable. These are all no-name actors, or at least I'm assuming they're no-name actors. I don't watch the CW, so if they pop up there, I wouldn't know. But they're all younger, and obviously they're supposed to be playing teenagers. But they do, they're really good actors. Not one of them really annoyed me. And when they have to do some cheesy stuff like a Kumbaya fire scene, they pull it off pretty well because they are being genuine. A couple other things I liked. I did like how they kind of compressed the mythology a little bit. Again, we're going to talk spoilers here. Right off the bat, the first 2 minutes of the show, Zordon is the Red Ranger. He gets killed, and his team is killed. And we do find out immediately, I was right when I was talking about this on our flashback for the Power Rangers movie, the original one, as well as my trailer reactions. Rita is the Green Ranger. Flat out, she has the power coin, and she is a part of Zordon's team. So that wasn't really the way the original show was, but it kind of compresses the timeline, which makes sense because you are dealing with 2-hour movies and not a half-an-hour episode you can do every day of the week. A couple other things I liked. I would say just the pacing of the movie. I think it went well. It's an origin story, so you're not going to see the suits until almost the end of the film, but that's okay because I like the characters enough to kind of guide me through that. I'm talking a lot. Amber, did you have anything else you liked?
No, not really. Well, I mean, I like the movie as a whole, but there's not like I said, a whole. There's not separate things.
So let's do the other thing then. What didn't you like?
What I didn't like. Well, I know the one piece of paper that obviously had something wrote on it that I didn't get the 2 times they showed it on screen. I don't know if it's because we were at the drive-in.
Yeah, I think it was because we were at the drive-in.
But
it's not exactly
the 2 times that it was shown, I did not see what was on it. And obviously it meant something because...
Something about... I couldn't even tell either.
Because I think it was Kim reacted to it the second time, and I'm like, I still didn't get it. I still didn't see what was on that note.
They're passing notes, and something's written, and I couldn't tell.
So.
And then the first time it's thrown at... It's either Bulk or Skull. They don't have Bulk and Skull, but they have a bully. And then the second time it does show up at the end, and I couldn't read it there either. So I think it was because we were in the drive-in. So if somebody can see what it says, feel free to put it in the comments section.
And then the second thing was the costumes. Not only did not like the costumes because I like the originals from the original, what movie was it?
Yeah, we talked about this afterwards. She isn't going for the spandex.
Most of you guys know, now listening to, obviously, me on Gremlins, I like old stuff. I like when you can just dress somebody up, do makeup and everything. I think it looks better than CGI. So I'm not a fan of CGI because I feel like you can do the same thing with costumes and makeup, but this comes from my theater background. So, of course, I'm going to like the originals. I think, obviously, they could have kept the symbol on the costume. I didn't like that there's a glow thing that made me think Iron Man. Why they had a glowy thing on their chest, I don't know.
They did ask if they were Iron Man or Spider-Man.
See, exactly. So, my thought is they could have incorporated the symbols. I didn't like Megazord because in the original... all their Zords go together.
You can see where the Mastodon is the leg and so forth.
And in this, they go together, but then they become all one color. You don't really see the difference. And so it just kind of, I think, for me, just became a Transformer.
And they did kill Bumblebee in this movie.
Yes.
And he actually says, "Sorry, Bumblebee."
So it made me think more of a Transformer than actually incorporating all them together. I'm like, why couldn't they add color? Why did they have to all of a sudden all turn gray?
Yeah, we kind of talked about that in the car on the way back too. The way I see it is, I agree. I think there's too much stuff going on in the costumes and the Megazord. The littler Zords were okay, except for the Mastodon had 6 legs. Yeah, and I think his trunk was a machine gun.
Yeah, I was really confused.
But the Triceratops looked good. I think the Tyrannosaurus Rex was the best looking one.
I didn't like how the pink one.
The pterodactyl?
I didn't like that. Looked more non-pterodactyl.
It looked like a jet.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Trini's saber-tooth tiger actually probably
Looked fine.
had a saber-tooth
But they
head.
didn't show her much, and I don't know if it's because they didn't like her costume.
I don't know.
But if you
well,
look,
she's the Yellow Ranger. She's not exactly a big.
I love the Yellow Ranger, which
but
she
let's
showed up a lot.
be honest. In this movie, the big three are Billy, the Blue Ranger, Jason, the Red Ranger, and Kimberly, the Pink Ranger.
Yeah.
Zach and Trini are kind of off to the side.
Yeah. But they didn't show her much during the fighting scene.
No. But what I was going to say is, I think it has something to do with being HD now. You know, I mentioned to Amber earlier, even on Star Trek, the new movies, if you look at their uniforms, they have little Starfleet symbols all over the place. I think it's because when you have something with such high quality in HD, if you just have one color, it's going to look weird. So, like, even on their masks and stuff, you could see, like, it was two-tone with kind of a black and a... Well, with the Red Ranger, it's pretty obvious. They show the back of his helmet once, and it's kind of like a multicolored black and red scaly look. And it looked kind of cool, but I agree there was way too much going on. I did like, you know, you mentioned while we were watching the movie, you didn't like the glowy spines. But they definitely avatared it up at the end there because the glowy spines connect them to their Zords. Which is one thing I did like about the Megazord. I didn't like the look of it, but I like that they went with the teamwork and having to unite as one throughout. The whole idea is they can't even morph until they become a true team. And so when they're in the Megazord, they have to operate the Zord together. So one person's the left arm, one person's the right arm, one person's the leg.
And they don't know that at the beginning.
Yeah, Billy screws it up. But so I did like that they had to work together because that's not something you had in the original show. I mean, we joked in the flashback that Aisha, the Yellow Ranger, had a little button that let the Megazord kick Ivan Ooze in the crotch, but that was really about it. I did, before I go into what I didn't like, a couple things I forgot to mention that I did like. I may be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure this is the first superhero movie, and I can't believe the Power Rangers pulled this off before anyone else. This is the first superhero movie where we have a gay superhero. Trini is gay. She comes out during the campfire scene. And I'm pretty sure this is the first time we have an autistic superhero. Because Billy flat out mentions that he's on the autism spectrum. And it was a little ham-fisted at the beginning when they had to kind of narratively say, I'm autistic. Mm-hmm. But after that, he kind of played it really well. Mm-hmm. You know, he kind of goes off on his own.
I kept on saying he acted like Spider-Man. And then all of a sudden later on he mentions, so I'm like Spider-Man. And I was like, ha, ha, because I just said that.
Well, I mean...
Because his personality just acted very much like that.
And he points out, he's like, he has no kind of sarcasm radar. He has no idea of what humor is. And there's the points where he goes off on his own. Like, and when they're all trying to figure out where the Zeo Crystal is, and Zeo Crystal here is different than the Zeo Crystals from the show, because in the show... I just kicked my dog. In the show, the Zeo crystals were what took over after the power coins were broken. But here, it's just one crystal. And so Billy goes off on his own and finds it and just doesn't tell anybody, because that's what a kid like that would do. They just kind of figure it out on their own, solve a puzzle. So I did like that. What I didn't like, I agree with Amber on the kibble on the uniforms. The CGI wasn't bad for me. You could tell that they were CGI costumes mostly, but it didn't look too terrible. I do think the glowy shit could have been kind of toned down. As I mentioned in my trailer review, I did not like when they had to take the masks off to show the actors. That happens a lot in movies. Like the worst one, I think, is Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire. I mean, he takes his mask off every 5 minutes because you're paying for Tobey Maguire, so you got to show his face.
But with the Power Rangers, you know who's who.
Yeah, and these guys are new actors, so it's not like we're paying them a lot of money. So I'm thinking when you're flying a large robot or operating a large mech, you probably should have some kind of face protection while you're doing that in case you get beat up. So the fact that they take off their the front of their masks, I didn't like that. As I already mentioned, I think Rita was overplayed a little bit. I think Elizabeth Banks did fine. It wasn't terrible, but it was something that I think could have been kind of toned down a bit. There's not much I didn't like, because honest to God, I liked the movie. The one other thing I would say is I think the director did fine, but I think he tried to Michael Bay it a little bit too much in some senses. There's a couple times where they do the speed up motion and then the slow down motion to try, and there's some shaky cams in there. But there was also some really good footage too. Like there's a scene where Jason is driving his car at the beginning of the movie and just being a teenager before anything that happens, and he gets into a really terrible wreck, and it is a point of view looking out the windshield, and it doesn't cut away. So as he's spinning in the air and doing all that, you're in the wreck with him. I thought that was done really well. I mean, I'm excited for what's to come. I hope this movie does well. I can't believe I'm saying that because I was not expecting much going into this. I wanted to see it, but it's the Power Rangers. I wasn't expecting much. So let's go ahead and talk about our final reactions and then what you're interested in seeing if they do have a sequel, which Haim Saban, the guy who brought Super Sentai over here and made it Power Rangers, has said he has a plan for a 5-story arc moving forward now. So he has plans to do some more. So if this thing makes money, I'm sure it'll be a franchise for him. And judging by what I saw, I think it's going to make some money. So what are your final reactions, and what do you want to see in a sequel if they have one? You're behind the light again. There you go. Kind of. There. That's a little better.
For me, I would just say I don't know if I could see 5 more or what total.
Let's just go with 1 for right now.
Total of 5 films, but I do see some potential for obviously at least another one, if not 2. I would say hopefully they do keep the actors that they have.
Hopefully no one has a contract.
Nobody switching out stuff.
They don't go to the UN Peace Conference, which is where the 3 went
because
before.
usually it's you get attached to these characters, and they spent a lot of that film building up the characters and getting to like the characters and their struggles because they are kind of like the outcasts. Mm-hmm. So I hope that they don't actually switch actors because I think that will lose a lot. For me, I don't know. Looking forward, I mean, I watched Power Rangers. Do I remember a lot of it? No, not really. Other than the Power Rangers. So when it comes to villains, I don't really remember much. Other than obviously Rita, but she was the main one. So, other than that, I don't know.
Okay. I'm more of a geek, so I know a little bit more about the timeline. But they do mention in the there is a mid-credit scene where they do mention Tommy Oliver, the Green Ranger, and they show an empty desk during detention. They had really a Breakfast Club thing going, which was not bad. I mean, they kind of pulled it off. But there's an empty desk, and there's a green sweater or hoodie at the desk. So they are playing the fact that Tommy's coming into this. They obviously didn't have an actor cast because they didn't show him. But I wonder if they're going to go off the TV show, because if they go off the TV show, Tommy's going to be evil to begin with. But I think they could probably bypass that since they made Rita the Green Ranger and she was already evil. I can see them just going with the power coin was picked up by Tommy. Maybe he has to work his way into the team, but not really be evil. So I could see that. Also, Rita obviously is still alive. She gets. They even say in the film, so I'm not being stupid about it. She gets bitch slapped to the moon. Okay, and so she's probably going to be hanging out on the moon. And she does say when she's defeated that there are other powers out there that are going to want to get this Zeo crystal, this MacGuffin. And so that tells me Lord Zed is not too far behind. And I think it'd be really fun to see Lord Zed. If they're going to do Lord Zed, I want them to do Lord Zed. I want to see him no skin, metal exoskeleton Lord Zed. Amber's like, who the hell is Lord Zed?
I'm sure if I see a picture.
I'll show you a picture afterwards. But no, I'm excited. I actually liked it.
And I think it will play a lot to teenage kids today.
We had our 6-year-old daughter with us, and the first part of the movie she wasn't really interested because it's teenage angst, and she doesn't understand that yet. But as soon as the fighting started, she was into it. Like, she was, like, when the Zords get beat up and they form the Megazord, she started, like, saying, oh, they're coming together. They're forming, or they're becoming one big robot. So she was watching and interested. But I think kids probably 10, 11, 12 is where they're going to really
13.
get into this. And it's good for adults, too. I mean, I'm 3 years old, and I liked it. She's even older than that.
Really?
She's 34. So what would you get this out of 1 to 10? 10 being, perfect, and 1 being, oh my god, it's a horror movie. Amber likes horror movies.
Really? 7.
Amber gives it a 7. I'm going to give it an 8. And yes, I gave Logan an 8. I think this movie is more fun than Logan. And so I give it an 8. I'm very happy to see that there is a new batch of superheroes who can fight in the daylight. I'm sorry, I bash on DC a lot, but that's because DC sucks. And I'm waiting for the Justice League trailer to come out tomorrow, and judging by the poster, it ain't going to be pretty. But this is something that could be turned into a franchise. And if the Power Rangers TV show has been on and off for 20 some odd years, and Super Sentai's been on and off for 30 some odd years, they can probably make 5 movies out of this, and I'll go see them because I liked it. Amber, you got anything else you want to close with?
No.
All right. Thank you for that.
All right.
Well, like I said, we'll probably do a full disclosure and talk about a lot more about this movie when more of the guys have seen it, and gals, Allison. But until then, if you want to learn more about us or subscribe to our podcast, you can go to thefrontrowmoviereviews.com. If you're listening to this on the podcast, please make sure that you give us a 5-star rating on iTunes or whatever you're watching. Germany will say give us any rating, but I'm going to ask for a 5-star. And then if you're watching this on YouTube, please be sure to like this video and also subscribe. We have some really good stuff coming out. We're always trying to do better, so I'm being told not to play with my beard. We have a lot of stuff coming out, so please subscribe to us and check us out. Until next time, which will probably be, again, a full disclosure of this and a whole bunch of other stuff, we will see you in the front row. And until then, go Power Rangers.